another episode of the Matt Report. Today's guest is Chris Badgett from LifterLMS. He's a lifelong teacher. I mean, this guy has taught people how to win Alaskan dog sled races, jumped out of helicopters and survive the crazy conditions of Alaskan terrain. He's taught people how to make an omelet. I think it's like one of the most popular videos on the Udemy platform on creating an omelet of all things. And now he's the CEO of LifterLMS, and he's teaching people how to build sustainable educational businesses, right? People who are education entrepreneurs, as Chris puts it. He's helping them be successful not only in their business, but really for WordPress. And we get into the nuances of that. As somebody who's, building this LifterLMS software, which arguably could stand on its own two legs if he wanted to. If he wanted to peel away from WordPress, put it on its own hosted version, just like the competition does, and just move on and move away from WordPress. But he likes WordPress and he likes investing in this ecosystem, and we're going to learn a lot about that stuff today. I can't thank Chris enough for joining the show. It's been a long time coming. I've known him for a while and I've followed his work for a long time. Love the product, love the brand, and love what he does with his company. Check out LifterLMS and listen to today's podcast. But before we get there, mattreport.com, mattreport.com/subscribe. Join the mailing list, and let's say thanks to our sponsors. First sponsor of the day, SearchWP. We love SearchWP. SearchWP finds content that WordPress ignores. So, things like e-commerce product details, custom field content, custom database tables. I mean, that's a thing now. I think people are doing things with custom post types, with content management in WordPress, especially in this headless WordPress world that we're moving into, that we're already here. I mean, people are already doing it, but I think it's going to become a lot more common, especially in this no-code world, connecting applications to each other, making API requests. SearchWP is going to help you do that, especially with their robust API endpoints and everything that you can do. SearchWP makes searching your WordPress content way better than any solution on the web. It starts at $100 for your site. It's very affordable, very fast, very efficient. They have a great team over there. They've been in WordPress for quite some time. So look, if you're just building a project that needs better search, look no further than searchwp.com, searchwp.com. John Locke is back from LockdownSEO.com. Lockdown, that's lock with an E, LockdownSEO.com, just like maybe one of your favorite characters on the TV show Lost. Am I dating myself? Am I that old? Man, what a great show that was. LockdownSEO.com. We help manufacturing companies with search engine optimization so they get more requests for quotes. Basically, John drives traffic to these local manufacturing companies at large. He also focuses a lot on local SEO. So most of these types of companies are very local or regional. I have friends that own a couple machine shops, and they're doing quotes, they're building things for local businesses, helping that local to regional economy. It's a big thing. It's not just Amazons and Googles of the world and SEO as we know it as internet marketers. There's hyper-focused markets that John can help your client, you or your client, perform in. I like to say this because I know most of you are WordPress freelancers or agency owners. I've been there. I've been there when the manufacturing company, one of our very first clients, manufactured soundproof covering for large machinery. And they needed more traffic to their website. They had a terrible website. We helped them, but we didn't know the industry. We sprinkled in some SEO, but it wasn't super effective. I knew it was way better than what they were doing. Had we had somebody like John to help us out, maybe you're in that situation, reach out to John. Say, hey, I got this local manufacturer. I don't know a thing about local manufacturing SEO. Give him a ring. LockdownSEO.com. LockdownSEO.com. John, thanks for supporting the show.
It's a real honor, Matt, and I'm not joking. It was back in when I lived in Montana, which is actually where I was living when LifterLMS started. I was listening to your show. I would be riding around in my car or on the bicycle listening to the Matt Report, and I was so new to WordPress. I didn't know what this whole community thing was. I just kind of fell in love with it, and then many years later, I just woke up and being like, oh yeah, I'm in the WordPress community. But you were such a big part of me learning about this community, and also just all the great entrepreneurial interviews you had. I really connected with the content, and it helped me in my earlier days as a tech entrepreneur. So thank you, and it's an honor to be here. I'm the CEO and co-founder of LifterLMS, which is a learning management system for WordPress. We take a similar track as WooCommerce. So we have a free plugin on the WordPress repository, a free core. You can look for that, called LifterLMS. And I'm really focused on the user and the success of my user. That's why I started a podcast called LMS Cast, which helps the education entrepreneur, not just with the tech and WordPress and stuff, but in all the other problems and opportunities they face. So you can find that at LMS Cast. I'm also a homeschooling dad who lives in the country. I got a little farm here on the coast of Maine. So I'm all about quality of life. I'm not just a business at all costs kind of guy. That's who I am, what I'm up to.
You know, this whole podcasting and education thing, right, that you've been doing. I mean, you're right before the show started, Andrew Warner from Mixergy was looking for people who specialize in either remote learning or third degrees from that. And I know you as your background is this lifelong teacher. I mean, that's a fair thing to say, right?
I have been a guy, like before WordPress, I was no tech. So I used to live in Alaska. I ran sled dogs up there. I would train. I helped my boss, Linwood Fiedler, train for the Iditarod sled dog race, and I would manage his helicopter-supported sled dog tour business on a glacier in Alaska during the summers. And I did that for almost a decade. So I've been teaching people how to run sled dogs, and became a manager and a leader in a team in a very challenging environment for a long time. So I would say, and before that, I've done a lot of outdoor climbing and mountaineering and stuff like that. So I am a teacher very much, but in the non-traditional sense, like not in the classroom, out in the, for me, a lot of it was outdoor leadership focused. In fact, my first website, my first time with WordPress was creating a blog called Outdoor Tribe. It doesn't exist, but that's where I wanted to go. I needed a place to blog about leadership. And that was my entry point into WordPress.
You say no tech, like that's the challenging part compared to what you were doing. Because what you were doing sounds much more challenging than putting together a WordPress website for sure.
It's all relative.
Yeah. Some of the stuff I want to talk about today, I want to talk about the LMS scene, obviously specifically LifterLMS and where you're going. And then I want to talk about your expectations for WordPress itself as a software and maybe even a little bit as a community. But look, I want to fast track right into this. I think everyone knows LifterLMS at this point in the WordPress space. Is that a fair statement? Like, are you like the dominant LMS when people come to you, they say, yeah, I got to use this, just give it to me. Is that where you're at today in business accolades?
When I go to WordPress events, people know who the product is. I, like you, put myself out there in podcasts and YouTube and stuff. So like people are aware. But I'm also kind of a head in the sand kind of company builder. So I don't focus on the competition. We focus on our customer. We've always lived that ethos. So I'm honestly not that aware because we're so like maniacally focused on the user and the customer and the different types of customers that are coming at us constantly with their needs. So I honestly don't know to be completely frank with you, but I have invested a lot of time, and we sponsor some WordCamps and things like that. So we are well known in the space, but we do have some great friendly rivals in the space as well. There's LearnDash, there's Tutor LMS, there's WooCommerce, Sensei, that Automatic got there. And there's a couple, and WP Courseware. There's a couple other players in the space, so it's good to have some friendly rivals as well.
And there's a bunch of hosted platforms that are in the space as well that people turn to as as a complete alternative to WordPress. I love LifterLMS, so I guess I should disclose it. Like, I love LifterLMS. I use it for a lead generating tool for my local podcast that I do here on the south coast of Massachusetts. I used to run an agency day to day because I do the podcast highlighting local entrepreneurs around here. I get the typical questions of like, how should I market myself? Hey, Matt, you're doing a podcast. Can you teach me how to do it too? And I have slivers of time to commit to these types of things lately. So I said, I am just going to create a 10-part audio course using WordPress and LifterLMS And if you have those questions for me, just join. Just go to learn.southcoast.fm is what I say on my other podcast, and you can just take the free course right there. And I love it for that. Have you found people using, I mean, I'm sure you have, but one or two standout ways that people use LifterLMS that's not just a student's curriculum or a teacher's platform, that kind of thing?
Oh yeah, 100%. I also use the same strategy. I call that a free course lead magnet. And you and I are both in, we do sales and stuff like that. So when you get repetitive questions a lot, it's a good time to turn that into a free course. That I think of it as an automated sales machine. Our free course, the LifterLMS Quick Start course, has like 25,000 users in it or something like that. It's just a lead gen and on autopilot or whatever. So you can use a course for that. You can, of course, do courses or even more integrated online schools, blended learning, that type of thing. I've seen companies using LifterLMS to train their employees. There are even software companies like Groundhog is using LifterLMS, and WP Feedback, another couple WordPress companies there, are using LifterLMS to develop partner programs and train their customers. So it's super flexible. That's really the challenge of WordPress. When I look at a tool like Kajabi or Teachable or Thinkific or Simplero, these are great SaaS solutions for online learning, but they're very focused on the specific avatar, like the expert industry, if you will, which we can serve, but we also serve schools, businesses. I even had somebody build like a pay-per-view system with Lifter. WordPress is so flexible. It's amazing what people build. I love it. And it's super challenging at the same time when it comes to product road mapping and marketing and stuff like that too.
Yeah, I want to get into that stuff a little bit later. Cliche to say, but is business booming for you right now in terms of, this COVID world that we live in, and now people turning to, well, I have to shift my business online. I know of people locally to me, specifically like yoga studios. I have a few friends that run some yoga studios, and they found themselves thrust into doing more online classes and setting up this more structured course-like system. And it put them into a whole new category. I know a few people who launched an online learning for yoga, and they were like, Matt, somebody from Boston signed up and paid for our online class. That's not something we've ever experienced, because usually it's come to the studio, take a tour, explore, meet the coaches. And now it's like, they watch some videos and they sign up for my service. Is business going a little bit north for you now with all this stuff?
Yeah, 100%. It is booming. I like to say, the digital transformation we've seen happening across lots of industries has just been accelerated like 5 years and 5 months when it comes to online learning.
Yeah.
And, I'm one of these guys who's high contact with users and prospects and stuff, because I need my finger on the pulse to build a great product. I need to hear what customers are trying to do. I need to hear the pain in their voice. So I get on the phone with people like, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to do? How are you trying to transform your continuing education business that you used to run inside hotel lobbies? I got university people on the phone who are trying to do stuff and find more affordable solutions. I got business owners trying to train their employees and remotely instead of the on-site training they were doing. And then I got people that are teachers who are stressed out looking for supplemental income, maybe doing things that don't scale. Like WordPress itself is it's kind of like Slack in the sense that it's a grassroots adoption. Like the schools at the top, they're like Google Classroom, or, they just go with the big player. But then there's these education entrepreneurs, not just in K through 12, higher ed, community college, adult learning, mandatory continuing education, all these sectors, the education entrepreneurs inside there are coming at us fast and furious. And so there has been a big boom in our industry.
I've never really sat on the term education entrepreneur. Is that an industry thing? Are you starting to see? This is probably just a foolish question to you, but are there like word camps but for education entrepreneurs these days?
I started using that term in 2014 when we started LifterLMS. Like, who's our target market? I'm like, well, there's these education entrepreneurs, but nobody calls themselves that. So it's
I like it.
It's a challenging term in that it's not like in the zeitgeist or the collective consciousness, but it's what I see inside people who are successful with the product and attracted to the product. In terms of get together and like events and things like that, it's happening. The challenge with it, the education entrepreneur, is they have to be 5 people simultaneously. I call it the 5 hats problem. You have to be an expert. You have to be a technologist. You have to be a community builder. You have to be an instructional designer, teacher, and you have to be an entrepreneur who does like business building and marketing and all that stuff. So those are 5 hats. Education entrepreneurs are extremely busy people that need to grow fast or build a team around them fast to be successful, because it's really hard to wear all 5 of those hats at the same time. You asked about events. What I find is people are strong or weak in those various hats, and they're attracted to different type of events, like a tech conference, like a WordCamp, or something like traffic and conversions, or maybe they're more teacher focused and they're going to like teacher symposiums and stuff, but there's no real like unifying stuff. I mean, there's some out there like I would consider ConvertKit's conference, CreatorCon or whatever they call it, is that's a good one, but that's focused on really just that expert niche, like the individual. It's challenging because it's a little bit of a moving target, but in challenging times, it's the entrepreneurs who rise up and like kind of take the lemons and turn it into lemonade. And we're just seeing that in the expert space, but also inside companies and training institutions and things like that as well.
If all goes well, your episode will come after Jason Resnick, who is someone who also spends a lot of time in creating membership like services and digital download courses and things like that for his brand over at res.com. And he and I were talking about, I've known him for a while as well, like right around when I started the Matt Report. If you follow me on Twitter, you know I rant, or I used to rant about that get rich quick, how to sell courses, which I'm sure you've seen. What's your take on that? As I get older, I see people latch on to that mechanism of sales, for lack of a better phrase, because it's all they know. They think that that's what they have to sound like, act like, be like in order to be successful with a course. Do you feel like now in 2020, that noise of the last 2-3 years has kind of fizzled out a little bit, and now people are, I don't know, more serious about this stuff, or they're just moved on to be more mature course hosts and education entrepreneurs?
I think both is happening. I think the noise is getting louder, both for like the start an agency or start a mastermind or start a course or start a coaching program. Like some of the stuff that's a little hypey around that is still pretty loud, but at the same time, this industry is maturing. So you're seeing people, becoming more comfortable with technology and like video cameras and everything else, which is actually what I want to interview you about on our podcast. The tools have never been more accessible. And because of the long tail of things like podcasts, where people have their own personality and it's okay. Like, Joe Rogan is not like a regular TV announcer, but it's okay. He's just being Joe Rogan. People are starting to get more and more comfortable with the brand of you, if you will. So I think both are happening. But really the fundamental thing inside your question, I actually call it a program error in the psychology of people. When they get really focused on make money online. And trust me, I'm not allergic to making money. I don't think there's anything wrong with making money or making lots of money. I want our customers to become millionaires if they're selling their courses. It's great. But if we lose focus or even never start with a focus on the customer and the user and what our learner needs, what's their pain, what's the opportunity, what are they trying to accomplish, how do we help get them there even in challenging circumstances? If we fix that, the money will come. But there is, unfortunately, in the space, a lot of focus on get rich quick or passive income, like, easy button kind of stuff. But there's still a lot of great and wonderful things out there as well. And there's a lot of experts that are, they're finding their own way and they're finding their voice. And if you're listening to this and you're thinking about starting a course or a coaching program, be more of you. You don't have to be somebody else. You can model something that you see working or whatever, but you don't need to become a different person.
Right. Yeah, I mean, will raise my hand, guilty as charged. I remember starting at the time Matt Report Pro, which was me just like sitting back trying to figure out what am I doing with this podcast. And this is like, I don't know, whatever, 8 years ago. It's like, what am I doing with this whole thing? Sure, I have the agency stuff at the time, but I was just like, I see everybody selling courses, right? And doing membership stuff. So let me go and do that too, which actually worked for maybe like 6 to 8 months. I can't remember, or maybe even a year. I can't remember the time span. But like you said, those 5 hats, very difficult to wear. Very difficult to balance it all, create the content, market it, keep it going. I found that obviously supremely challenging, and I just sort of ended up folding it, after some time. What do you do to support your customers who might be struggling with that? And I'll frame it with what I know best is like the HubSpot model. They have HubSpot Academy. You have to go through, get quote unquote certified. You have an LMS piece of software. What do you do for your customers to help level them up so they do find success?
There's a lot. This is actually how I think about business. I put the customer at the center, not the product. So what needs to surround the customer? The product is just one thing. In this case, the LMS software. We got the podcast, over 300 episodes, not just me talking, but interviewing smart people on all kinds of 5 hats issues to help provide support. We look at our customer support as a feature, not a cost center. So we invest in customer support. We pay our customer support people well. We care about how fast people get back. We care about tickets getting resolved. We back channel with other companies when our customers are having problems with other people's tools to make sure we can try to get them in a good spot. Our top customers of the LifterLMS Infinity Bundle, we have one of the most expensive, if not the most expensive software offer in WordPress. It's $1,000 for the Infinity Bundle, but that also includes access to a weekly live call that I have been running every week for years, where we do live customer support, but also strategy support. It's a little bit of a mastermind because there's some other people in there doing similar things, so they help each other. And we get into like tool recommendations and all kind of stuff. When people first buy the software, we have a lot of automation and stuff like that, and email, nurture sequences, onboarding campaigns, setup wizard, all that stuff. But we also have live onboarding calls. We call them liftoff sessions. Because of our price point, we're not enterprise. Not everybody gets an account manager, but they can come to a live group call where we answer their questions and kind of get them over all those initial hurdles to activating the product, to get going in the right direction. So we got that. And really a lot of it just is philosophy of like getting in the trenches with them, making sure we're hearing what they're trying to do, hearing where they're getting stuck. We're constantly surveying, asking for feedback. Hey, what do you need? How can we help? Our Facebook group is huge. As of this recording, I think we have about 7,500 people in there. I remember when I started that thing, it was just me talking into the darkness. And then now, and people are like, hey, how'd you do it? I'm like, dude, I go into that group and help people 5 days a week for the past 6 years or whatever it's been, and other people. And there was this magic thing that happened at like 400 members. Finally, they started helping each other a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of work. But I'm kind of rambling now, but that's the way I think about it is, what does our customer need to be successful? First of all, do we know where they're stuck? So do we have feedback? And then what can we put in place to support them?
Yeah, I don't know. But a lot of people think that you can just, which is silly to say because you would think that humanity would learn their lessons by now, but people still think like launching a product, starting a business, creating a plugin, building a community, selling a course or an education sequence. You can just get a blueprint and you just follow this blueprint and it's going to work, right? And now that I'm at Castos, as director of podcaster success, I talk to people for our services side where we help people edit shows and do all the busy work of podcasting so they don't have to. People are like, well, can you just make the show better? Well, what do you mean make the show better? Well, let's just make it better. Like, tell me how to like do better shows and ask better questions. And well, I mean, we can help you, but we can't be there for every show. Like we
Yeah.
can't be there like you have to get better at some point yourself. People just sometimes think they can just throw money at a problem or get a blueprint. It's just, it takes time. And I love the example of going into that Facebook group and talking into the darkness, because literally that's what I did and do for everything I do.
Yeah.
and I don't know how to bottle that up into some sexy fashion that says, this is what you have to do. This is all it is. Have fun. Nobody, I guess, would be attracted to that concept, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it's a balance. Like, I love this framework where you got to have a clear customer, a clear result, and a clear mechanism to get them to that result. And if you clean up the clarity of the customer and you clean up the specific result we're driving for, it is possible to develop frameworks and blueprints and paths that people can follow. But humans are humans too. It gets messy, and I know what you mean. It sounds easy, but it's not.
An example again from my local podcast, and I'm glad even obviously I did not expect to learn something from you today. But when I started my local podcast, I started a Facebook group as well for the entrepreneurs to come together and help each other with content marketing, online business stuff, because there's no real focal point down here for people that teach that stuff. And much like you, started the group, talked to the darkness, and really put in a lot of effort. 3 times a week, having some structure around my Facebook group. And it took me a year to build that Facebook group up to 100 members. And not even until like that 100th member did like 2 or 3, maybe 4 people started, always commenting, always helping each other out. And it's like, wow, there's a lot of effort here. It takes some time. It's serious stuff.
Well, I call that moving slow to move fast later. A lot of the entrepreneur lore is around like, oh, I just made this little tweak and I have this super efficient thing, and then it just exploded. But the reality, the unsung heroes of entrepreneurship and community building, it's like all this grunt work that's like the whole, 10 years to overnight success stuff. That's what I see.
So you mentioned some other hosted platforms. I want to transition into the future of WordPress and frame it with an issue my brother ran into. So he runs a website called thetraderisk.com where he talks about trading, cryptocurrency, day trading, all these types of financial services that he helps consult people with. And just the other day, he was like, man, I am getting tired of keeping WordPress updated, keeping WooCommerce updated, keeping Beaver Builder updated, and he uses Paid Memberships Pro, which he started like 5 years ago. And I'm really just tired of continuing with keeping all of this stuff going. And the real, crux of the business is delivering this content. Do customers that you have that have been with you for 5 years or more, are they having these same kind of pain points? And do you ever just say, to heck with this WordPress thing, we're just going to do a hosted version? Is that ever on the radar or come across the bow of your ship?
I love this question. As a salesperson, I think you'd appreciate this, where I have to oftentimes make 2 sales. The first sale I make is for WordPress, and then I make it for LifterLMS.
Yep.
And so what is the value proposition of WordPress? Is it painful? Is it clunky? It can be. Yep. The way I think about it is, when you're new to WordPress, you often overcomplicate it. You get too much stuff going on, and then you got to like earn the right through experience to become minimalist. Like, please, I'm gonna build an entire web application website with 10 plugins. You can do that. You don't need 80. You don't need 200 or whatever. But things get messy, and like sometimes stuff breaks or whatever, but also SaaS goes down. And what I see, so I get a lot of customers leaving SaaS tools, and they're like, I want the ownership, I want the flexibility, and I want the community, the ecosystem of WordPress. That's why I'm coming to you. So that's why they come. But that stuff is like a 2-edged sword, right? You got products made by different companies that are being used together. But at the end of the day, I've finally kind of realized what is the ultimate value proposition? Like, what is the leading point on the spear. And it's the flexibility, it's the customizable. I'm like a marketing nerd. So I read like all these reviews and all this stuff, and what people say about why'd you switch to Lifter? Why'd you choose Lifter? They're like, the word customize comes up all the time. So that customizability, but it comes at a cost. And I've seen people like make some noise, leave WordPress, go try something, and then either complain about how expensive the new thing is, or they just come back because they're like, you know what, that thing, like once you get used to the flexibility, it's hard to give it up.
Yeah.
So I do hear you on it. And I don't think that WordPress is the answer for everybody. If somebody is like expert and coming over and they're like super tech new, it might not be it, especially if they can't afford to hire what you would call a blue collar digital worker to like help them along that journey. And that might be the best solution for them. But if they're not ready for that, they should get a SaaS solution. But
yeah,
overall, I think this is the funny thing about WordPress, and I experienced this at a smaller level with my plugin, is it's crazy that like it's designed for beginners and advanced developers at the same time. It's both beautiful and ugly at the same time because of that. So it's at the end of the day, though, I personally am an evangelist and love it for that. But I use SaaS tools. Like if there's a SaaS tool that makes my life easier, I'm there. I'm gonna choose the best tool for the job, not the brand. Yeah. So and for me right now and for WordPress, it's the right fit for a lot of people.
If you were a startup mentor, and somebody came to you with the idea of WordPress, you'd be like, "No, this is crazy. You're servicing two different customers, with this piece of software. It's either do you want it to be the basic user or do you want it to be the enterprise user? Pick one and focus on it and get really good at it."
There's also, if I was a startup advisor, the economics of it is different. And I didn't know this because I just kind of fumbled my way into entrepreneurship from being a dog musher from Alaska, right? Like I didn't move to San Francisco and go try to start a startup. I just started figuring out how to build websites so I could blog, and then later built an agency out of that, and then developed a product out of that. It was all very organic that I ended up where I ended up. But straight up, it's harder to make money as a software entrepreneur in WordPress than in traditional SaaS. But there's a lot of great things in the WordPress ecosystem as well. So would I advise against it? I think it just depends on the person and the project and the motivation and what they want to do. And the whole like low code, no code thing that I know we talked about earlier, just like what you can do with WordPress as a starting point is really amazing.
Yeah. How do you smooth over that customer expectation? Like you said, you maybe look at a word cloud, you see everybody says they want customization or custom, and with the expectations of low code, no code being such a buzzword lately. Side note, I've seen WordPress get thrown into that, and that must just boil Matt's blood. Seeing like, oh yeah, it's just this no code tool. Let's move on. How do you smooth over that expectation? Because I think a lot of product owners listening to this, and even agency owners, when they give a tool, or a consultant give a tool like, I don't know, like a Gravity Forms or even yours, like LifterLMS, the expectation is, well, I just point, click, and it just works, right? How do you, when somebody gives you money for that software, and then you say, yeah, well, with your theme, you might need to write some HTML and CSS for the product class catalog to look better than what it is now. How do you smooth those little fine points over with your customers?
This is a really great question. And I just want to add, though, just as a philosophical conversation, with no code, I could build a Udemy clone with Lifter and WooCommerce and some other WooCommerce plugins. Udemy was a $7 million venture-backed company or something of how much VC money went in, maybe more. But you could build that with WordPress without being a developer and not needing to write any code, just by putting some plugins together. So that's what, when I think of WordPress and no code, I think about, it's amazing that you can do that. And I have customers doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
So in terms of getting into it, I think what we do as entrepreneurs is we are in the friction removal business. That's what we do. And you have to love it. I mean, you hate the friction too, but and and this is what makes WordPress great. Like, for example, there's a new theme on the up and up called Cadence. It's good. I can see it firing up in the WordPress community, and they built a bunch of awesome, sweet LifterLMS customization tools into their free theme, and it has the most options of any theme, and it looks gorgeous, and it's super easy to use, and they have a one-click import of like a course template, and they have these blocks that are already done. It's amazing. So they are removing the friction, but together as a community in WordPress, we're all working together. We got the blue collar digital worker, we got the the plugin creators, the theme creators, the block creators, the educators like Sean over at WP 101. We're all like working together to pull it off. And then when somebody comes in, if they're a DIY person, I can't tell you how many times I talk to people and I'm like, they're in our community anyways, that I'm their first entry into WordPress. So I'm like, all right, you guys need to go take this free course on our Academy site,
Yeah.
which I licensed from Sean at WP 101. It's the beginner's WordPress course. It's awesome. And I recommend, and then we put together a recommended resources page, and we just create content for days. And there's YouTubers making tons of money, just click by click, showing people how to do it. But there is some friction there. But with that friction, there's options, there's customizability. But it is hard. What this community needs is a way for people to not end up like overbuilt, like into like a page builder, and they got ahead of themselves, and they're like out of control.
Yeah.
I see that a lot, unfortunately, where people are just like, man, I know that's part of the learning process. Sometimes you got to do a lot before you can become a minimalist, but it does get a little out of control. And that's when people throw up their hands and are like, I'm out of here. I'm going to Kajabi, Teachable, Thinkific, whatever. It happens.
Do you think it's a zero-sum game? Like eventually people just start on WordPress, get frustrated, go to a hosting platform, actually learn like a hosted SaaS solution, actually learn what's most important, which is actually creating the content, running the business. And then they hit, the ceiling of a hosted platform. And then they just, well, I guess I'll come back to WordPress, until 5 years later after that decision, WordPress changes again, which frustrates them, Gutenberg 2.0 or whatever. And then they're off to the hosted solutions again. Do you think any one leader, or do you ever think like WordPress will be the most dominant solution in 5 years' time?
Well, I guess I'm always surprised if we just look at, let's just say, the expert industry, WordPress is not the dominant player when you add in all the SaaS solutions for that. Like, I'm just talking about the niche that I know.
Yeah.
And I'm always surprised, like, why aren't more people, there's a lot, part of it's marketing. Like, a lot of these SaaS solutions just pour on the marketing, and it's insane. Like, it's just very heavy. But I don't think there's it's a zero-sum game, and ultimately we'll end up with just one Amazon. If that were the case, it would be, Google acquires Zoom and we're done. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's an ecosystem, and I mean, the thing that I obsess about is like, I'm a thinker like you, and I'm like looking at the big picture, like what's going on here. And I look at people like Ziv Raviv, who's an Israeli balloon artist who is using my software. He made $277,000 in 2019, teaching a niche that only has 1,000 people in it, a total addressable market of 1,000 balloon artists worldwide, basically balloon artist business building.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, and Ziv is like the perfect fit for WordPress. You may disagree with some of his tools or whatever. Like I'm not sure what he uses for hosting. I think he uses Divi. I think he uses, I know he uses Lifter, and he uses all these tools, but he's like the perfect fit, and he will never leave WordPress.
Right.
And, yeah, but similar to email marketing and whatever, like sometimes we switch. I used to be on Infusionsoft a long time ago, and I switched to ActiveCampaign like 6 years ago. People move around. When people move around, it's a commodity.
Yeah.
But when there's more there, I'll tell you what frustrates me the most, and I like it at the same time. When I when I ask people what they love, why'd you choose Lyft or whatever, like, why'd you choose us? Why'd you stay here? What do you like most? They always say the community. Not always, but they say the community, they say the trust, that we're engaged. They're not talking about the features of the product.
Right.
And I'm like, that is so interesting to me, because I really want to hear how amazing the product is, but they're placing the most value on the community, which I think is the story of WordPress in general.
Yeah. We're in this space that, I mean, look, we're in the, for the most part, for 99.9% of the people listening to this, we're in the web space, right? New stuff is attractive, right? New stuff is, hey, it's alluring. We want to try some new technology. Can we do it faster? Can we do it better, bigger, bolder, a little bit more efficient at lower costs? I just spoke about this on the episode that went out today, which is, look, I think a lot of people that said, "Oh, I'm done with WordPress" when Gutenberg came out, I think most people were just looking for an excuse, and that was it. Like, that was something they could latch onto. I mean, sure, there's some deep dive 1% developers who didn't agree with the code or whatever, right? That is built as how Gutenberg is built. But I think a lot of people were just like, we've been doing this for 15 years. And this is something for us to latch onto. You say, you know what? Finally, I can dust my hands and move on to Gutenberg, or away from Gutenberg, because I'm just not happy with this. And it gave them an excuse to try something else. Meanwhile, not to peg Justin Jackson in the same cohort there, but I'll see him working on his Statomix site as he does with his Twitch live stream or YouTube live stream, whatever he does. If you've ever watched it, he's like 2 inches from the screen. His hand is in his hair, and he's manipulating a pricing table with HTML, CSS. He's deploying it, right? He's waiting for it, to commit, whatever, and then he's hit a refresh. And I just look at it, and he's just like frustrated with fixing margins and paddings. I'm like, dude, Beaver Builder, 2 seconds, page price block. Gutenberg price block. I am done. I don't even have to think about this stuff, right? So look, I guess, there's a little bit of that lust to try something new in this space, but at the same time, like, you give up the control, or you go super easy. It's either super hard or super easy. There's benefits to both, and I'm right there. I'm right there with you. Like, I don't think that WordPress is great for everyone, but at the same time, hell, I couldn't give a Statomix site to somebody and say, here you go, just install it. If they owned a pizza shop, hey, go install Statomix on Netlify. But don't forget to set up your local environment first and then commit it to your GitHub repo. Good luck.
Yeah.
No question there. Just a soapbox moment.
I just want to say I totally agree with you. It's a double-edged sword, but it's the right sword for some people. And whether you're a power user, a power DIYer, or you're like me and you just kind of fell into WordPress as a user and then you just slowly fell in love with it in the community, like that, I don't think that journey is going to go away. Or right. There's people who want the customizability and they can afford to hire the agency or hire the team member or hire the freelancer to help them both achieve the goal of customizability, but not get into the tech weeds themselves.
Yeah. I'll give you the big, heavy question. You can shy away from my conspiracy theory to save yourself. But look, I'm looking forward, like you, I'm just curious. I'm always watching things, again, like the no-code, low-code movement, looking at things like Webflow, looking at what WordPress is doing with, of course, Gutenberg and the full site editing experience, which will be coming soon, what people like Elementor and Beaver Builder are doing. Even the folks at Breezy, like, I think that's an underrated page builder. They have a hosted platform and they have the page builder experience. Like, I'm looking at all these things and I'm wondering how WordPress executes on this in the future. I think user experience is critical. I think we're just at a point where WordPress it doesn't know its own identity right now. And I think the identity in 2 years will be just a full website building experience. And I think the vehicle that sort of glues the premium experience to that will be Jetpack. In other words, the marketing play on Jetpack in 2 years will be the best way to experience your WordPress site. One plugin, all the features you ever need, done. That's my sort of take on it. Where do you think we end up with WordPress full site experience? Do you think these page builders are all going to have to pull off and do their own hosted solutions to survive? Is there any room for these types of things?
I think we can have our cake and eat it too. And what I mean by that, and I think, I don't know for sure, but I think Matt Mullenweg might view it this way as well, where we can, and I think he's learned a lot as him, using him as an example on his journey of .com, .org and all that. Like you got the SaaS and then you got the WordPress, that when we, slim the friction between a WordPress site and things like a mobile app, or we slim the connection between a WordPress site and a like all the activity that we see in the WAS movement, the website as a service movement, where people are building like SaaS-like applications using WordPress on the back end and kind of SaaSifying it. You can kind of have your cake and eat it too. But I think what I mean by that is where I think we're going to end up is, I think it's going to all work out at the end. I'm an eternal optimist though. And I believe in the goodness of people and community. I'm also all about capitalism too. I'm not saying that. I'm glad that hosting companies are, acquiring talent and working on solving all the friction at the hosting layer. Today, I think I saw an article about GoDaddy with Skyverge and Jilt.
Yeah.
The customer doesn't want a hosting plan. They want a digital transformation for their business. And they may need WooCommerce. They may need hosting. They may need email accounts. They may need a page builder, a graphical user interface so that they can like work the content themselves, or their tech person can. So all this needs to happen. I'm optimistic that it's just going to keep evolving, where the power users can just be more deeper in WordPress, but there'll be an easier experience for those on the front end that use it in a much more SaaS-like way. But
yeah.
That's a little abstract, but I think that's where we're going. And that's my hope for the future, that we can coexist where, it's people like you and me, Matt, who like, we could roll up our sleeves and just took the bet of like, I don't know, I'm not really a tech person, but I'm going to buy a hosting account and see where this goes and watch some YouTube videos and start figuring this out. But we're like the early adopters. We're the first wave. And as the user story, literally the story of users, whether that's business owner or passionate expert about a topic, or professional who's trying to get some job done, they just need a solution. And I'd love it for the DIYer to be able to use WordPress in all the raw and modular way, but also have smart SaaS-like experiences on top of it. So
yeah, it's God, I hate overusing the word interesting. It is interesting, to see where all of this stuff goes. Like you were saying before about your Udemy example, by piecing together some of the no-code, low-code stuff. Yeah, it's you playing around with Webflow, for example, and just seeing what you can do to use what you said before. Like a lot of people just throw this marketing stuff at it, or tons and tons of marketing stuff. By stuff, I mean money. There's tons of money to attract people to these platforms. But you get in there and it's the same thing. It's like, okay. It's like when you open up Webflow, it looks like you opened up Photoshop. I don't know what this toolbar of literally 50 icons is supposed to do for me. There's a massive learning curve. And not that this is the core focus, but I think it's bubble.io, which is like a no-code, low-code coding platform. I think they do it the best. It's not the best looking, but they have the most training tools to help people along the way. I love those tools too. I think they're super smart. I think to do some fun things. But at the end of the day, like I really wrestle with the fact, like if I built something on this, it feels weird that it's not my platform. it just feels weird that it's not WordPress. So I do hope this for the success, obviously, of WordPress, but those types of.
I just have a comment on that. Kevin Kelly wrote that article, 1,000 True Fans or whatever, and he also wrote something about moving from ownership to access as like being the future. Like, we don't own cars, we just Uber. We don't own vacation homes, we just Airbnb. He like saw this coming a long time ago. And I think it's like WordPress and what it represents and the ownership that you're talking about of like having your digital stake in the ground and having that agency and that control over it. It's kind of like we went, to me, I have a background in anthropology and cultural social science and stuff. So what I see is like this move in the human psychology to like, I'm just outsourcing everything to services or software as a services. But then there's almost a longing to be able to get it back. So you can, and in these current times, like even with the pandemic and everything that's going on, people are bringing things back, like to like, whoa, maybe we should have some ownership of some of these aspects of how we live our life and take more control.
Yeah.
And you mentioned your brother doing a trading thing with like, I mean, what's going on right now with like Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and everything. There is a place in our society for decentralized sovereign ownership as part of the human experience. We can't outsource everything.
Yeah, 100%. And let me dumb it down for those of you listening that might not be on the level of Chris, because you're a well-versed and very intelligent person. Let's talk Purdue chicken. Right?
Okay.
When COVID hit and everyone was like, we're not going to have any meat because Purdue is backed up, for whatever it was. Like, people are getting COVID there, and we're going to have low poultry and meats for the next 6 months. Who said Purdue should be the one giving out all of our food? That's what I was yelling at the TV. So you're absolutely right. Like, this claim to ownership of getting small farms, sustainability back into the local sectors, or certainly the regional sectors, I think is like, again, like, who gave Purdue the keys to the castle? Not me. I don't want Purdue chicken. I don't know who said that.
We all did in a way too. We had to take responsibility at the shopping at the grocery store. Like right. Our buying decisions are part of it too. But like you, I mean, I'm looking out the window of my office and I can see my 10 egg-laying chickens right there, just walking around. I can see our 3 pigs. Like, having some ownership. And you don't have to go big. Maybe it's doing some container gardening at home or something like that. But having that feeling of ownership in what you produce is pretty cool. And when it comes to business, having some ownership in your assets, which includes your web properties, I think it kind of makes sense.
He's Chris Badgett. Chris, where can folks find you to say thanks?
You can find me at LifterLMS.com. It's a learning management system for WordPress. And I also have a podcast. If you're listening to this podcast, go leave Matt a review. I love this show. I've listened to it so much over the years. And especially, I can't tell you how helpful it was in the early days of WordPress for me, of my WordPress journey. So go pay him thanks with a review. If you want to check out my podcast, just do a search for LMS Cast. And that's my solution to if you're interested in creating online courses. And I don't just talk about tech. I talk about all those 5 hats we talked about earlier with some smart guests. So that's how you can find me. I'm also active on Twitter at Chris Badgett.
And you're going to be reactive on YouTube again?
Yeah, I need to get see, this is the thing. When I ran into you, Matt, I was like, all right, he's got that weird thing I got where like we like selling, we like marketing, we like YouTube, we like podcasting, we like WordPress. Yeah. And I love the friendly rivalry we have each other. I want to figure out how I do some YouTube for my business, but also have a personal YouTube channel. And I really want to figure out YouTube and get it fully integrated, because I think it's a beautiful platform for communication and community and sharing. So thanks for the challenge. I'm going to get back on it.
Yeah, at least go to his YouTube channel and check out the walkthrough of his office. It's envious.
Yeah.